Imagine a world long before bullets, rifles, or explosions. A world where warriors fought with swords, spears, and bows. Never imagining a future where a simple trigger pull could change the course of history. Yet more than 1,000 years ago, deep within Imperial China, an accidental discovery would ignite a revolution that would reshape warfare, nations, and eventually the entire planet. This discovery was gunpowder. And from this single invention came the long, incredible evolution of firearms that has continued relentlessly into the modern age. Gunpowder began as an unintended creation. Chinese alchemists were not trying to invent a weapon. They were searching for an elixir of immortality, a mythical substance believed to grant eternal life. But instead of discovering life, they discovered force and explosive mixture of charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate. Initially used for fireworks and ceremonial displays, gunpowder quickly revealed its destructive potential. Once the Chinese realized that this mixture could project fire, heat, and force, it was only a matter of time before someone thought to weaponize it. The earliest gunpowder weapons were far from the rifles we know today. One of the simplest was a tube of bamboo or bronze filled with powder and ignited to shoot flames and shrapnel. This device, known as the fire lance, served as a primitive flamethrower. Sometimes it contained small projectiles, such as porcelain shards or metal pellets, turning it into an early proto-shotgun. Though crude and often unpredictable, the fire lance marked the transition from traditional melee combat to the era of projectile weaponry powered by chemical force. As Chinese engineers continued experimenting, gunpowder weapons evolved. They created explosive bombs hurled by hand or launched by catapults. They designed rockets used both for war and celebration. They developed early cannons, simple but effective tubes that fired missiles using rapidly expanding gas. These innovations were groundbreaking, but they were also just the beginning. Weaponized gunpowder was spreading, and once it left China, the world would never be the same. Gunpowder moved westward along the Silk Road, carried by trade, warfare, and cultural exchange. The Islamic empires were among the first outside China to adopt and improve upon the technology. Muslim engineers developed sophisticated cannons and siege weapons, using metallurgy and engineering knowledge that surpassed much of the world at the time. Their weapons could break down walls, change siege tactics, and alter the balance of power between armies and empires. From the Islamic world, gunpowder traveled into Europe by the 13th century. Europe, embroiled in constant warfare, quickly recognized its value. But unlike previous civilizations that cautiously integrated gunpowder, Europe embraced it aggressively. Engineers, craftsmen, and kings saw explosive weapons as a decisive advantage in conflict. As metallurgy advanced, European armorers began producing more reliable barrels and stronger cannon frames. By the late Middle Ages, cannons were tearing down castle walls that had once been considered impenetrable. The introduction of handheld firearms in Europe began with the matchlock era. The matchlock firearm was simple but ingenious. A burning piece of rope called a match cord was held in a clamp and lowered into a pan of gunpowder when the trigger was pulled. This design allowed soldiers to aim and fire without manually lighting the gun each time. Though slow and vulnerable to rain or wind, matchlocks allowed infantry units to create organized volleys of fire. Entire military doctrines evolved around synchronized firing lines. Japan, during the Sengoku period, famously adopted matchlocks known as Tanegashima rifles after contact with Portuguese traders. These weapons dramatically changed the nature of samurai combat, demonstrating how quickly firearms could disrupt long-standing traditions. Countries around the world were beginning to understand that staying behind in firearm technology meant falling behind in power. As centuries passed, firearms continued evolving. The matchlock was replaced by the wheellock. Instead of a burning rope, the wheellock created sparks by spinning a metal wheel against pyrite. More reliable, especially in wet weather, but also expensive and complex. The wheellock saw widespread use among cavalry and nobility. It represented a leap forward in reliability, yet it was not the design that would dominate the world for centuries. That honor went to the flintlock mechanism. Introduced in the 17th century, the flintlock became the global standard. It used a piece of flint striking steel to create sparks that ignited the gunpowder. It was affordable, reasonably weather-resistant, and easy enough for mass armies to use. With flintlocks like the British Brown Bess or the French Charleville, entire nations built military dominance. Infantry line tactics, with rows of soldiers firing volleys in unison, became iconic scenes of 18th century warfare. But the biggest changes arrived hand in hand with the Industrial Revolution. Manufacturing techniques improved dramatically. Steel quality became more consistent. Machines could produce identical parts with exact precision. This revolution allowed firearms to evolve from simple single-shot weapons into more advanced, reliable tools. Rifling, the addition of spiral grooves inside a barrel, was one of the most important advancements of the era. The grooves caused bullets to spin, stabilizing them during flight and increasing accuracy and range. Rifled muskets like the Springfield Model 1861 changed the face of war during the American Civil War. Soldiers could hit targets hundreds of meters away, altering battlefield strategies forever. The percussion cap replaced the flintlock, using a small chemical primer to ignite the powder. It worked in nearly all weather conditions and eliminated many misfires. This was followed by breech-loading rifles, which allowed loading from the rear rather than the muzzle. Soldiers now fired faster and reloaded while lying down, making combat safer and more efficient. New ideas about ammunition led to even more progress. The invention of the metal cartridge combining bullet, powder and primer in a single unit was revolutionary. It simplified loading, improved reliability, and opened the door to mechanical systems that could fire multiple shots in succession. This paved the way for one of the greatest advancements in small arms history, the invention of the revolver. Samuel Colt's revolver provided soldiers and civilians with multi-shot capability, compact power, and unmatched reliability. It became an icon of American frontier life and set the standard for modern handguns. As technology advanced, firearms moved toward semi-automatic designs. Pistols like the Luger P08 and Colt M1911 showed that controlled rapid fire could be achieved through blowback and recoil mechanisms. These weapons became staples of militaries worldwide and remain influential today. But the true shift toward modern warfare came with the bolt-action rifle. Weapons like the German KAR-98K, British Lee Enfield, American Springfield, and Russian Mosin-Nagant dominated the battlefields of World War I and World War II. These rifles were accurate, powerful, and durable. They represented the peak of manually operated firearm design. Close-quarters combat, however, demanded a new type of weapon. This need gave rise to submachine guns, compact automatic weapons, firing pistol cartridges. The Thompson MP40 and PPSH-41 became legendary for their roles in urban warfare, trenches, and armored assaults. Machine guns also matured during this era, from the Maxim gun to the MG42, weapons capable of suppressing entire battalions and reshaping battlefield tactics. But the most revolutionary concept of the 20th century was the assault rifle, defined by select fire capability and intermediate-powered ammo. The assault rifle balanced power, accuracy, and controllability. The German STG-44, often considered the first true assault rifle, introduced this concept. It influenced every military weapon that followed. After World War II, two rifles rose to global dominance, the AK-47 and the M16. More than weapons, they became symbols of two different military philosophies. The AK-47, designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov, prioritizes durability, simplicity, and reliability under extreme conditions. It can function in mud, snow, sand, and neglect. Cheap to produce and easy to maintain, the AK spread to over 100 countries and became the most widely used firearm in the world. The M16, engineered with lighter materials and higher accuracy, emphasized precision, modularity, and advanced engineering. It used a smaller high-velocity round, allowing soldiers to carry more ammunition. Constant improvements over the decades evolved the M16 into the M4 carbine, a modular weapon that became the backbone of U.S. forces. The Cold War turned these rifles into global icons. Nations aligned with the Soviet Union adopted AK variants, while Western allies standardized on NATO weapons like the M16. The world was divided not just politically, but also by the rifles carried by their soldiers. As the 21st century began, firearm technology accelerated dramatically. Materials shifted from steel and wood to aluminum alloys and high-strength polymers. Weapons became modular platforms rather than single-purpose tools. Optics evolved from simple iron sights to red dot sights, holographic sights, thermal optics, and night vision scopes. Rail systems allowed soldiers to attach lasers, flashlights, suppressors, grenade launchers, and other specialized equipment. Modern rifles transformed into customizable instruments tailored to mission needs. NATO standardization led to widespread adoption of the 5.56 x 45 mm round, while Eastern nations continued developing 5.45 x 39 mm and 7.62 x 39 mm cartridges. Each caliber reflected different design philosophies: lightweight ammo with high velocity versus heavier rounds with stronger penetration. In recent years, however, advances in body armor and combat ranges have exposed limitations in traditional rifle calibers. This sparked innovation in ammunition design, leading to new rounds such as 6.5 mm and 6.8 mm. The United States launched the next-generation squad weapon program, ultimately selecting the SIG XM7 rifle and XM250 light machine gun, both designed to outperform older systems and penetrate advanced armor. Meanwhile, other nations began modernizing as well. China adopted the QBZ-191, replacing the bullpup QBZ-95 with a more ergonomic and reliable design inspired by global trends. Russia introduced the AK-12, refining the AK platform for modern combat. European countries invested in rifles like the HK416, FN Scar, and CZ Bren, each representing the future of modular high-performance weapon systems. But the evolution of firearms is not just about the weapons themselves. Optics, sensors, and digital technology are becoming just as important. Some modern scopes incorporate ballistic computers that automatically adjust for wind, range, and movement. Advanced optics can mark targets, communicate with drones, or integrate with augmented reality systems. And with the rise of exoskeletons and wearable tech, the soldier is becoming part of a larger digital network. Even ammunition is evolving. Polymer-cased rounds reduce weight. Hybrid cases increase performance. Some militaries are experimenting with caseless ammunition, although challenges remain. Railguns and directed energy weapons like lasers are being tested, hinting at a future where traditional bullets may no longer dominate. Yet despite all this innovation, one constant remains. The evolution of firearms has always been driven by human needs: speed, accuracy, reliability, and power. Once, warriors sought immortality and discovered gunpowder instead. Today, militaries seek dominance, safety, and technological superiority. Each step in this journey represents a moment when engineering, strategy, and necessity aligned to create something new. The history of firearms is more than the story of weapons. It is the story of civilization. Every major leap in firearm technology reshaped societies, governments, wars, and borders. From ancient Chinese alchemists to modern defense laboratories, the pursuit of better weapons has never stopped. And as we look toward the future, we must ask ourselves an important question. Will the next great leap in warfare still rely on bullets and gunpowder? Or will lasers, artificial intelligence, and autonomous systems redefine conflict once again? One thing is certain: the evolution of firearms is far from over. And the next chapter may be the most dramatic one yet.